Hello there, my name's Vince from My Mate Vince, and in this video today we're looking at part 2 of interesting things on the Nintendo Switch 2. Let's get started. Now you might be aware that you can actually put the Joy-Cons on, not only back to front like so, but also the wrong way round. So when they're back to front, they're not actually recognised, they're down as a wireless controller. But when you put them on the wrong way round, so for example the left one on the right one, and the right one on the left one, then they are actually recognised as controllers, even though they're on the wrong side. So this makes you believe, and also they will charge up as well if you were to plug a charger into it. This makes you believe that it would be possible for the screen to rotate round, so you can play in this position. So if the Joy-Cons are on wrong, then like your mobile phone, it would just flip and you can play it. But that's not the case, the screen's not flipping round. But check this out. Right, look at this. Nintendo Switch, this is the correct way, yes? So it's going to be like this here. It's color coded for you to put orange or red to red and blue to blue. But let's not do that. Let's swap them round opposite than what the picture tells you. So I've put them on like this. And check this out. It's still the right way up, yes? Be patient. Now what do you see? Look at that. Yes, it's flipped. So now if we were to put the Joy-Cons this way, they start working properly again. But it's only for a couple of screens. Nintendo have obviously realised that some people may accidentally do this, and it actually says your Joy-Con 2 are attached upside down. It allows us to go to the next page, but then we can't go any further. It tells us to swap the Joy-Con round. But isn't that interesting? Right now, that switch is working flipped. Yeah? So in the future, it may well be possible to attach the Joy-Cons the wrong way round and have the screen flip just like it would do on a phone. Or it might be fun for certain games to swap them over. Now, what's interesting is when you go to search for lost controllers on a Nintendo Switch 2, although Nintendo Switch 1 controllers will work, for example, you can see this is working here now, you won't actually be able to find it. So if we turn this one off, it's not going to light up down here. The only things that give you an option to connect to find are Nintendo Switch 2 controllers. But what's interesting is they don't just vibrate, they give out a little sound as well. So watch this. It's going to turn on the Pro Controller. Did you hear that? So it will give a little vibrate every time you tap it. But now if I hold it down, and if I was to do a Joy-Con, and the same thing, hold it down. So the HD rumble on Switch 2 controllers is a lot better than Switch 1. It has a wider, more powerful range of rumble, and it means you can produce more sounds because it's acting like a little speaker. Interesting. When you put the Joy-Cons into your Nintendo Switch 2 grip, they've designed it so it can stand up. So if you look really closely, the idea is it's going to take up less room. You can stand it behind, for example, your dock. If you have a look, they've actually put two tiny, not even sure if that's going to come across in the camera, but just by my nail here, you can hear me going against it. There's a tiny little foot just there, and there's one this side as well. And it's those little feet that allow it to stand up, so that's where the point of contact is. Again, a nice little touch. Now if you look closely at the docks, this is the original Nintendo Switch 1, this is the OLED Switch 1, and this is the Switch 2. You probably think that they're all about the same height off the ground, but they're not. The Switch 2 has a 2mm gap, while the Switch 1 looks to be a 1mm one, and this one is just really just flat straight on the floor with this rubber pad here. They've left the bigger gap here on purpose because, unlike the other two, the Switch 2 has holes in the bottom for ventilation. So it has a fan built in to circulate the air better. And you have all these holes here to allow the ventilation of air. Also, they've done something very minor, which is also quite clever. So basically, if you were to get snagged on one of the cables, then there's a chance of pulling it and there's a chance of it tipping over like this, which isn't good, especially when your switch is in there. Let me show you what they've done to stop that from happening and to allow it to slide. If you listen there, that's not rubber, yeah? They've done a little bit of plastic to allow that. So here we have the dock. Have a look at the bottom here. Have a look at that little rubber foot. It's the same as this one, which is the same as this one. But this one here is slightly different. Can you even see what that difference is? Those other three are the same, but if you look at this one, it's got a tiny bit of plastic coming down. Just there. So there's a little plastic foot that's not on there. And that means when it tilts forward, whatever surface is on is going to be on the plastic foot rather than the rubber, because the plastic foot is about the same depth as the rubber there. So it means then when it tips, it's going to go like this. It's going to be on the plastic and it's going to slide. Chances are, if you've given the wire a good tug, it's going to come flying off anyway. But it's nice that they've attempted to solve that problem. If you have a look at the games, it's not just the colour that's different. So normally the Nintendo Switch will be black games and the Nintendo Switch 2 will be red. And you think they're exactly the same, but if you have a look real closely at the bottom here, you'll notice that there's a tiny little notch taken out just here, and that isn't on that one here. So what we're going to try to do is, first of all, I'm going to plug in a Nintendo Switch 2 game into a Nintendo Switch 1, which is fully updated. Then I'm going to plug it into a Nintendo Switch 1, which hasn't been updated in well over a year, maybe even 2 years, before the Nintendo Switch 2 was even a thing, to see what happens. And then what I'm going to try to do is, I'm going to try to cover up that little bit with a little bit of tape or something, and let's see what happens then. What happens when I plug that in to a Nintendo Switch 1 with that? And then let's be interesting. I'm going to grind away a little bit of this one here, and I'm going to plug it into a Nintendo Switch 2, and we'll see what happens. So a Switch 2 game in a Switch 1 that's been fully updated, so this is completely updated. Straight away it comes up with Nintendo Switch 2 software cannot be played on this console. Now on this one here, which hasn't had an update in a long time, nothing happens for a bit, but then watch. It then comes up with this game card could not be read. Please remove and reinsert it. So it thinks that either the game or the console is malfunctioning. So that's kind of interesting. So it recognizes it as a game, but a faulty game. Now, if you have a look at my Switch 2, I've got the Switch 1 game just in. I had to do a download, and you can see that it's working fine. Yep. So now, let's have a little bit of fun. So we're going to cover up that with a little bit of tape or something, and then I'm going to grind away this side here, and we'll see what happens. Right, I've put about 4 layers of duct tape on here. Are you going to go in? Oof. No, it's still coming up as Nintendo Switch 2. I don't think that's going to come out now. Oh, yes it will. Right, okay. Interesting. I would have thought, I mean, look, you can see it's folded in on itself. I would have thought that that would have come up with a game card error rather than Nintendo Switch 2. It's still recognising it as Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, could not be read. Interesting. Let's see if it still works in the Switch 2. Obviously, don't do this at home, because if that goes in there, I'm going to have to take it apart to try to get it out. That's very tight. Oh, the game card could not be read. Please remove and reinsert it. Interesting. Right, okay. Unless, of course, it's blocked up one of the pins. Let's see now. Let's take that off. And go in again. Yeah, and it read it. Well, that is that's interesting. So maybe maybe it is reading it that quick. You know, that maybe that this is reading it that quick. Put it down in the comment section what you think. But when we put that in there and we blocked it up, it didn't like the game. So maybe if you block that up on every Nintendo Switch 2 game, it's going to say that it can't be read. Right, I'm going to grind a little bit off here, and it'll be interesting to see if it stops being read on here, whether it will think it is Switch 2 game. So I'm going to use my little grinding pen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the very corner and just take a notch out of it. So I'm going to get my eye loop. I want to do this really closely so I can get it as accurate as possible. And I'm not worried about breaking the game, because all I have to do is get a bit of epoxy glue and put it on here afterwards, and then I can kind of grind it into the perfect shape. Right, that is definitely as high as the other one and as flat as the other one. Nope. Oh, there we go. The game card could not be read. Right, okay. The game card could not be read. So this is different on the inside. So it's trying to read this as a Nintendo Switch 2 game, but yet it doesn't. But because in this it wasn't built with anything for that little notch, it doesn't recognize whether or not it's the actual plastic is a Nintendo Switch 1 or a Nintendo Switch 2. So definitely then it is reading the game itself and not that little plastic notch when it comes to this. Well, that is interesting. But now on here, I won't be able to play that unless I was to put epoxy back on it. Fantastic. Now, just to quickly prove it for my own mind, I am going to stick a load of sellotape on it again, and then we'll see if it starts working on the Switch 2 again. Then we know 100%. Right, I've just put about 3 layers on that just to bulk it out a little bit. Yeah, it's there, look. Interesting. Well, I'm really glad I did that. So that definitely serves a purpose, but it's a purpose for the Switch 2 rather than the Switch 1. If you look closely, you will see that we have a little slit just here by the game card reader. That's your microphone. And you can test to see what it sounds like. So if you go to here, test microphone, and then go start recording. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Then it's going to play it back. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. But now, let's say if this was going to be docked, it is designed to work like that. But if it was if there was a lot of background noise and stuff in the room, if there's a lot of people in the room, you might want to plug in your own headphones with your own microphone in. So basically, the jack here and also the jack on here are 4 poles. So they're going to allow you to do left and right audio, so stereo, and also microphone as well. And if we go up here now, can you see that already it says console audio jack and console audio jack for there. When I unplug that, it will change to console speakers and console microphone. So hopefully you can see that. And if I was to plug it into this controller down here, it will recognize it there. So you can use this for your microphone as well. And now it says input and output, Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller, Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller for the microphone as well. So it's nice that it gives you so many different options. If you're wondering how many controllers can be connected to the Nintendo Switch 2, the answer is 8. If you try to connect the 9th one, the lights will just keep flashing, just like the Nintendo Switch 1. And if you're wondering what the numbers look like, obviously number 1 is obvious, number 2 is obvious, 3 and 4 are obvious down here, but this here is number 5. This here represents number 6. This here is number 7. And this here is number 8. Another thing they've done is, listen to this. It catches there and here. On purpose, they've put the screen 1 millimeter, well, what they say is a piece of printed paper under the rest of it. And the idea is that if you were to put it on a surface like a table, that it's not going to scratch the screen. It's going to just be on the bezel around the screen, the plastic around the screen, and not scratch the screen itself. Obviously, it depends on the surface you put it on, but if the surface is flat like this, then it gives the screen that tiny bit more protection by having it sunken by 1mm. Now, of course, there's one more thing you all want to know about, and don't lie, you want to know what happens if you put a USB cable from here to here. Will you have a constant loop of charging in, charging out, charging in, charging out? Well, the bottom port as well as the top, you can charge things from. So you can see my phone now is charging at 5 volts at 0.8 of an amp. And if I was to go into the top port as well, the same thing will happen. So you can see it's charging there. So the bottom port will output more than the top port, but you can still see that my phone itself is charging. There you go. Now, the bottom port will also charge, the switch itself will charge on 5 volts. So on purpose, I've just got a USB-A cable here coming out of this power little bank. And if you have a look here, console battery here, the switch itself will charge at, obviously it can do higher voltage when you use the proper brick, but the proper power supply, but it will charge at 5 volts, 1.5 amps. So it's charging at a lot of amps there. So now what happens if we take that one out there, and we know that it charges out here and it charges out here. So what will happen if we go USB to USB? So we have the cable here. Let's plug it in. Obviously, don't copy anything you see in these videos. This is not how the switch is designed to do anything. Now, interestingly, you are thinking that it's charging here, but look, it's not actually. It's 5 volts, but there's no amps being drawn. So although the charging symbol's there, I think it's just tricked it into thinking it's charging, but it isn't actually charging. So the chip inside must be clever enough to know that we have like a loop going round. But there you go. I do these things because I know that other people don't want to, but they're curious to see what will happen. And there's loads of other things as well. To give the straps strength, they're made out of fiberglass. Now clearly there's no magnets here, so how is it going to attach? Well, they've got this lovely little mechanism just here, and even that is on a spring. So when you put it in here, it's got a nice confirmation click on, and then you press the button and it just ejects it here. So it pushes against that bit there and forces over the power of the spring. So it's really nice. Also, when you're using this as a mouse, you don't want all the vibration going through into the table from the HD rumble. So what they've done is just nice and simply, they've just put a little bit of rubber here and a little bit of rubber here, and that's going to absorb, because we have the HD rumble down at the bottom here, that's going to absorb the rumble from here going through. Well, not all of it, but it's going to help absorb it going through the table, and you're going to feel it more in your hands when you're using it like a mouse. Also, because it's bigger, they've rounded it more and they've elongated out these buttons here to make it more comfortable to hold for smaller hands. As well as that, when you're using it in mouse mode as well, it's nicer because you click on these top ones here and you can see that these are longer. So you'd be using it in your left hand here with that on with your thumb on the analog stick there. So there's loads of design features. Every part of this has been well thought out. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed those little interesting things on the Nintendo Switch 2. Obviously there's loads of reviews already out there telling you about the 120 frames per second, the fact that it does 4K on your TV, and loads of other things like battery life. I did this video because I like to just mess around with different things that maybe other people don't do, but there's a small minority of us out there that still find it interesting, and I hope you did too. If you did, give it a massive thumbs up. Thanks for watching everybody, I'll see you all very soon.